Hello friends, my name is Jess and welcome back to my channel, Books Past Bedtime. In today's video, we're going to be talking about all of the books that I have DNF'd in 2024. Now, I used to never DNF books. Like, you would not catch me dead not finishing a book. But I feel like the last couple of years, I've tried to make a conscious effort of being like, if you're not enjoying this book, don't finish it. Like, this is such a waste of time to force yourself to read books you're not enjoying just to like finish them for no reason. Like, there's so many other books out there that are good that you're gonna enjoy that I'd rather be spending my time reading those. So like, why am I reading this book? And I feel like I've done a good job of like increasing my DNFs, and I am proud of myself. And I think one thing that has like helped me DNF more is like, I still count them towards my Goodreads goal. If I pick up a book, I don't care when I DNF it, I read it this year and it's going in my Goodreads challenge and counting towards my end of the year goal. Some people might not agree with that, but it works for me and it's my life, so what does it matter? But I do have 11 books that I have DNF'd so far in 2024, and so let's just go ahead and talk about all of those books. I do have them listed in order from like when I stopped reading them, so they're in chronological order. Doesn't really matter though. The first book that I did not finish in 2024 was called Dear Daddy, Please Punish Me by Skylar Snow. I DNF'd this book at 70%. This book is about our main character, Fitch. Now, Fitch is a masochist. He has been searching for a daddy dom. He finds that person in the much older Diego through this dating app that pairs up people that they think will be compatible. And Diego, I think, is down for like some fun, but he always holds back. He doesn't think that anyone can handle what he has to offer, and so can shy, quiet Fitch convince Diego that he can take what he has to offer. This book is ridiculous. I don't always read stuff. I'm lying. I feel like I've read a couple books in this series and a few of them have been a hit. This is kind of like a multi-author companion series around a similar theme of characters meeting on this dating app and having like similar BDSM style kinks. Some of them are good. This one was not good. It pretty much was just not well written. I thought it was cringy. I didn't love the characters and their interactions, and I really just wasn't into the story and didn't want to waste my time finishing it. Sure, maybe it would have only taken me an hour to finish it, but that's an hour I can spend reading something that I am enjoying, so I ended up DNFing this one. The next book I DNF'd was All Dolled Up by Chara Croft. Now, Chara Croft, I have read a few books from this year. One book I loved so much that I've reread multiple times, and so I was trying to read stuff from her backlist to see if I could find another book that hit the same, and none of her other books hit the same, which is so sad. I don't know what it was about that one book, but I just loved it. This one I actually like pretty much actively hated, and obviously because I ended up DNFing it. I did make it to 85% in this book and finally just gave up. I really thought I could push through because I thought some of the parts were like hot. I don't know. I just was kind of just mindlessly reading it, and then I got to that point and I was like, I can't take this anymore. I'm done with this. This book follows the unlikely romance between Renee, who is a nervous young man exploring his kink, and an older man named Edward, who kind of unexpectedly finds himself playing the role of Renee's daddy at this strange like convention in Asheville, North Carolina. It's kind of like a kink convention. Edward like accidentally ends up there. I don't really know why, but they discover this new shared connection through kink, ultimately like help Edward heal and Renee embrace his true self. The only word I wrote in my Goodreads review was yikes, and that's just because this kink was not for me. It's like Renee pretends to be a doll basically and does not participate in what's going on. He just disassociates basically. I found it fairly uncomfortable to read, and I didn't think that it was like exactly gonna go the route that it went, and it was just a little too much for me. It was just not my thing. So I decided to not finish this one. Next on my list is Princely Submission by Casey Wells. I ended up DNFing this book also at 85%, and I don't regret it at all. I didn't realize when I picked this book up that I had tried Casey Wells in the past and actually DNF'd her in the past. And so I think it's just me and this author don't get along, which is okay. This book is like a steamy romance following a prince named Jordan, and he's like spoiled. It's his first trip overseas, and the only way that his parents will like let him go off on his own is if he agrees to have a bodyguard. And so enters Stuart, his bodyguard. Stuart is very no nonsense, but the two end up being really attracted to one another, and Stuart realizes that Jordan really needs some distance discipline in his life. You know how that goes, and Jordan learns that he can like push Stuart's buttons to get him to do what he wants him to do. The discipline that Stuart ends up imposing strikes this connection between the two of them, and then the more time they spend together, the more it like threatens to become more than just physical. I like the concept of this, and I think if it was written by a different author, I would have really enjoyed it. I kind of spent the whole book being like, this is such a slow burn for a book that's supposed to be like a smutty BDSM book. But then once we finally got to the smut, like around the 80% mark, I wanted it to stop. I was like, please stop. Please, my virgin ears. This is horrible. It was just so like cringy, and there was no chemistry, no connection. It was very awkward. It was just simply bad. It was simply bad, and I did not enjoy reading the smut. And so once that happened, I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm over this. I'm gonna put this away, which sucks because you might think that I got this book on KU. No, I paid for this with my own money. The next book on the list is Out of the Wild Night by Mariana Vivancos. This is actually book 2 in, I think it's called the Coven Ties series, and I read the first book. I gave the first book 4 stars. I quite enjoyed it for what it was. This is an romantasy series, and it's kind of a play on Omegaverse, but not. So basically in this world, everyone is born either a dom or a sub, and that's just kind of like their gender designation, basically. In this book, we're following Mason. He's like a very scared, submissive. He's been kind of like abused, and he's not had a very good life, and he ends up in this coven that is partially like run by Charlie. Charlie doesn't run it, but he's like a protector of this coven, and he's a dom, and he's like very like kind of sunshiny, caring, teasing, and he helps Mason feel more comfortable, kind of takes him under his wing. Their relationship deepens. Mason kind of has to try to work through his like painful past and all this stuff. I ended up DNFing this book at 16%, which is a lot sooner than I would have otherwise, but literally the first 15% of this book is very graphic essay and DV, which is crazy, and I felt that it was unnecessary personally. And also I am very personally triggered by those two things. I cannot read about them in any book, and I really thought that I could like, since I got through it, I was like, oh, I can just keep pushing through, but I think this book was really going to focus on Mason's trauma involving these two things, and I just did not think that I was in a place to read that. Probably will never be in a place to read that, and so I did end up DNFing this book at 15%, 16%. Next on my list is Enemy Match by Anna Weinhardt. I ended up DNFing this book at 51%. This is kind of a similar situation to some of the other books in that it involves a dating app that matches up these two people. This is an Omegaverse non-shifter contemporary romance, and Hadley is an Omega. He finds his annoying muscly neighbor Darius to be insufferable, but then the two are paired up as perfect match on this dating app, and so they decide to like go out, and this is just as Hadley's like hate is about to begin, and because they're fated mates, this is triggered, and one thing leads to another, and yada yada yada. Yes, stupid premise, but stupid execution as well. I tend to enjoy an Omegaverse every once in a while, but I do like them to be well written. Like I want chemistry, I want yearning, I want pining, I want good dialogue. Like I don't care about the plot, that's not important, but this book was just beyond stupid, and it was so difficult to suspend my disbelief to get into the story because it was just so ridiculous. Like the stupidest things kept happening, the dialogue was horrible, the characters like had no chemistry, and it was just so dumb. It was so dumb. Particularly some of the smut that happens like right at the 50% mark is so insane. It was just so impossible. Like it was physically impossible for what was happening to happen, and I just thought it was so stupid and I couldn't keep reading it. The next book on the list is The Stepbat by Riley Hart and Devin McCormick. I ended up DNFing this book at 24%. This is an contemporary college romance between stepbrothers, and they kind of have this antagonistic relationship where they're always daring each other to do different things, and I think it kind of devolves into some kind of gay chicken situation, but I didn't get that far. I stopped reading at the 24% mark, like I said, because this writing was just so bad and there's no chemistry between the main characters. You might notice a theme with these books. A lot of these books are books that I picked up from KU, and they just were, I found them to be poorly written and I was unable to get into them, or there was something that happened that I just found very stupid. In this book, I did not understand why these two characters liked each other, and I kind of like to have some kind of idea of that in the first 25% of the book, and I just wasn't there. I was like, I don't think I could ever root for these two characters to be together because they're kind of really stupid and mean to each other, and I just don't like that kind of thing. So I did end up DNFing this book. I didn't think it was worth my time. You know, again, no regrets. No regrets about any of these books on this list. These are all hard DNFs. No soft DNFs exist for me. Next on my list is another book that I didn't even make it to the quarter mark for, and that is Old School Discipline by Misha Horn. I ended up DNFing this book at 21%. If you've been around my channel, you know, like I do like BDSM kinds of things. And so I picked this book up thinking that it was going to be something like that. And it is, but it's not my style of thing that I like to read. So in this book, we're following, I can't remember the main character's name, but basically he's like a rebellious slacker. He's been kicked out of so many schools, and so he's sent away to this like old school boarding school situation where it's all about discipline. It's kind of a juvie style thing, and he gets assigned to this roommate named Bax. Bax is very dominating. He has a fierce attitude and a mysterious past, and their volatile relationship turns into something more intense, and the line between like hate and desire begins to blur. But I didn't like it. It was too harsh for me. I don't like a bully romance. I like our characters to like each other, even if they pretend like they don't like each other. I don't like them to be actually mean to one another, and for me to not be able to tell if they could ever fall in love because they hate each other so much. Does that make sense? I feel like that's not crazy. Like, I want my characters to like each other. Bully romances are just not for me, and that's at the core of it what this was. It was very much physical and no emotion, and I need the emotion to like the physical. And so when those things aren't married, I'm not enjoying the book, and that was not happening in this book. So I did DNF it at the 21% mark. There was a lot of smut up until that point, and it was a lot. It was a lot. And it just wasn't for me. It's not for me, okay? Another book not for me for similar reasons was The Captain's Curse by Elliot Grayson. I DNF'd this book at the 61% mark. This is actually the second book. I can't remember what the series is called, but the first book is called The Royal Curse. And I actually really liked The Royal Curse, and well, I don't know if I really liked it, but I thought it was pretty good. I think I gave it like 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it. And this was the follow-up. This is a romantasy kind of series. And in this book, we're following Lord Cyril, who is kidnapped by Sir Enzo. For kind of like, he's not kidnapping him like for nefarious reasons. He just wants a payout from his family. But little does Sir Enzo know that Lord Cyril's family does not like him and is not willing to pay a ransom for him to come back, which is really sad. Like, poor Cyril. And they both kind of struggle with a growing attraction while navigating family betrayals, dangerous enemies, shared desire for freedom. The problem with this book, it could have been so good if Enzo was like charming and really enjoyed Cyril's company and like babied him a little bit more. Like, I wanted some babying to happen. No, he was mean to him the whole time. He was like sexually attracted to him, and they did act physically on their attraction, but again, there was no emotion between the two characters, at least none on page. And you could kind of tell that like he was like jealous and protective, but I needed him to baby Cyril a bit and like show Cyril that he loved him and wanted him for more than just his body, you know. Like, I just thought it was too harsh, and I thought the love interest was too mean, and that is why I ended up DNFing this book at 61%. I don't know if I said that or not, but yeah, I needed more. I needed them to be in love. Is that so much to ask for in a romance? Is it? I don't know. Apparently it is. One of two traditionally published books on this list is The Best Men by Sydney Carger. I ended up DNFing this book at 35%. This is a contemporary romance, and it's following our main character Max, who his world is kind of upended when his best friend Paige announces her engagement. Max is asked to be her man of honor. And as Max kind of navigates the chaos of the wedding, he ends up falling for Chasen, the best man of the fiance. Despite their very contrasting personalities, Chasen is very much like a frat boy kind of deal, and Max is Max. This was actually really bad, like offensively terrible. It was very poorly written. Max, the main character, is absolutely insufferable. Like, he very much gave this impression that he was not like other gays, which was crazy. Like, he constantly put other gay characters in the book down for liking like stereotypical gay things like musical theater, like made a point of going on and on about this in his dialogue, and I was like, shut up, I don't give a shit what you think. You're horrible, actually. Paige, the best friend, like constantly refers to Max as her gay best friend, and this is never challenged. Like, the first time it happens, whatever, but it just like keeps happening and keeps happening, and it was very weird. And also, this book was acephobic. It literally referred to a period of Max's life as when he was asexual because he chose to be celibate. Asexuality is not a period of your life where you choose to be celibate. It is an actual identity, sexual identity or orientation that people are. Like, fuck off with that shit. It's 2024. Like, why is that in your book? And so that just really made me very mad, and I ended up DNFing it, like I said, at the 35% mark. Not worth my time. Next, You're Not My King by Aaron Hawk. I ended up DNFing this book at 58%. This is an sci-fi romance. It basically follows our main character, Ruben, and Ruben attempts to escape an alien abduction, but it goes awry when he is sold to Voak, who is a hot and domineering lizard king. And despite their undeniable chemistry, Ruben must navigate the complexities of alien customs and a language barrier, and he also has to face his own trauma while grappling with what home really means. Like, does he really want to go back to Earth, or can he make a home here? Like, what is it worth it to return to a shitty life on Earth, or can he like make a better one here? Those kinds of things, while facing the challenges of being claimed by a mate bond that he never really expected. Again, like, I feel like if this book had been done with like a few small changes, I could have really enjoyed it. Like, I do like the kind of, I mean, I love a mate bond. I love kind of a reluctant or like arranged marriage kind of romance. And also I love a sci-fi fantasy romance. Like, I love all of those things, but I just don't think it was done that well in this book. Like, I really think that the language barrier between the two was very intense, and the Ruben had too much going on that we couldn't discuss. And it was just too much unresolved tension going into this relationship that could not be communicated about, which I didn't really love. I really don't think that this was a bad book, and this would be probably the first one on this list that I would return to if I had to pick up another one of these books again, but it really just didn't claim my attention. I don't think I was in the mood to read it when I was reading it, and so I did just end up putting it aside, and I doubt I'll ever come back to it. Now, the final book on this list is the one that I DNF'd most recently, and that was City on Fire by Garth Risk Hallberg. I DNF'd this book at the 65% mark, and it is the other one of two books that was traditionally published and not on KU. This book is set in New York City in 1976, and it kind of weaves together the story of all of these interconnected characters, like some rebellious punk kids with these like high-powered business family with this reporter. And it interweaves a bunch of different characters into this one story, and how their lives all kind of are changed by this shooting in Central Park. Everything kind of implodes, I think, during the blackout of 1977. I didn't get to the blackout of this book. This book is really long, if you didn't know. It's 911 pages, and I read about 500 of those pages, and I just simply could not imagine reading the next 400 because the first 500 were absolutely insufferable. They were horrible, and I dredged through it. Like, nothing happened. It's just endless, inane dribble of all of these horribly unlikable characters who do nothing and say nothing of importance, and I just couldn't take any more of it. I was trying to read this book because it's been on my TBR forever, and it's been on my physical TBR forever. It's one of the longest books that I own. I'm doing this reading vlog where I'm reading all of the longest books on my physical TBR. That should be coming next month in 2025, but I just simply couldn't get through this one. That's why this video is taking me so long to film, because of this book. So now that I finally DNF'd it, hopefully I will be able to make more progress on that video. It just was not worth it to me to continue forcing myself to read this book because I hated it. All right, and that was all 11 books that I DNF'd in 2024. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know down below if you are a big DNFer, if you often DNF books, and how many you DNF'd in 2024. I would love to know. I'm very curious. I definitely think that there were other books that I could have DNF'd this year that I didn't, so hopefully this video will be even longer next year. Thank you so much for spending time with me and watching this video. I really appreciate you being here. If this is your first time here, or if you're not already, I would appreciate you subscribing. I talk about pretty much exclusively queer books on this channel, so if that's something you're interested, I would love if you would stick around. Other ways to support this channel are leaving a like on this video and leaving a comment down below. You can also follow me on social media. Those links are in the description as well. And I think that's all for me. So thank you so much for watching this video and being here. I really appreciate you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.